Fillet welds are the most common welds out there. As a welding inspector, it is essential that the welding inspector must be able to read, interpret, and write the fillet weld symbol. In this video, you'll learn just that. And before the end of this video, you will have the chance to read and write these welding symbols. Let's get to it. As I've mentioned, fillet welding is the most common weld type you'll ever see in the field. So it is important that as a welding inspector, you are familiar with it. Fillet welds are dimensioned as follows: size, length, and pitch. The pitch of the weld does not always have to be included, but it must be indicated in the drawing if it is required. So this is the general symbology of a welding symbol. As you can see, that all of these parts are present in the fillet welding symbol. So what can you omit from this one? It is obvious that the groove weld size will not be part of it. Obviously, these groove weld size are for groove welds. Fillet welds also don't have depth of bevel in it, so that will not be part of it. Finish symbol and contour symbol can be part of the fillet weld, so it can be specified. Groove angle, root opening, the depth of filling are not part of the fillet welds. As mentioned earlier, the length of weld and pitch can be specified in a fillet weld. This variable is for spot, seam, stud, plug, or slot welds. So this is not a part of a fillet weld. Now, you have a general idea of what constitutes a fillet weld. Now, let's discuss the parts of a fillet weld joint. As you can see here, we have the legs, and the tip of the legs is called the weld toe. And then the bottom part of the leg is called the weld root. The isometric face that you see here is the weld face. This is the weld face. Now, how do you represent that in the fillet welding symbol? So as you can see here, the legs can be represented as this one, the perpendicular part of the fillet welding symbol. Note that the perpendicular part of the fillet weld symbol must always be placed on the left of the welding symbol. Now let's look how the welding dimension placement of a fillet welding symbol is done. S stands here for size. Generally, you place the size of the fillet weld on the left part of the welding symbol, as you can see here. So, if this one has a size of 1/4 inch, you can name this weld joint as follows. Now this weld is on the other side, so you have to place the welding symbol on the other side as well, above the reference line, just like this one. Now the size of the welding joint must be placed on the left, as you can see here. So the 1/4 inch size of the weld is placed like this one. Let's say for example that the fillet welds have unequal lengths, just like this. So for example, this is member A, and this is member B. This part of the weld has a size of 1/2 inch, as seen, and this part has 1/4 inch size of weld, meaning the two parts of the weld or the legs have different sizes. So the leg in member A has 1/2 inch, and the leg in member B has 1/4 inch. How do you write that? So if you're gonna place the welding symbol, so if you point the welding symbol just like this one, this is on the arrow side of the weld. So you have to place the welding symbol or the weld symbol below the reference line. the size of the fillet welds have unequal length, so you have to put both sizes of the legs, 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch. Now, how do you determine which member has which size of the leg? So you can make use of the tail in this one. So remember, any note or any specification or process you can indicate on the leg. So how do you specify what size of the leg belongs to which member? So as you can see here, the leg of 1/2, the fillet weld size with the leg of 1/2 inch belongs to member B, as you can see here. This 1/2 inch leg belongs to member B. So you can write on the tail that 1/2 inch leg on member B. Just like you can see here. So you can indicate which size of the leg belong to which member, so that when the weld symbol is placed in the drawing, you will not be confused as to which leg belongs to which member. How about if the fillet weld has a defined length? Where do you put the length of the fillet weld? So you put the length of the fillet weld on the right side of the welding symbol, just like this one. So for example, you have a 4-inch weld here. If you're gonna label the joint, for example right here, so this is on the arrow side of the weld, then the size of the weld is still 1/4 inch. You put the 1/4 inch side on the left side and the length of the weld on the right side, just like that one. Note that the fillet weld length does not account for the location of the weld. It has to be indicated in the drawing. So this 4-inch weld length is not defined where it's located. So you need the assistance of the drawing to define its specific distance from the edge of the joint. So for example here, you must indicate that this length of the weld is placed, for example, 5-inch from the edge of the joint. How about for intermittent welds? Intermittent welds are those fillet welds that has consistent pitch or spacing. Just like you can see here. This is a group of fillet welds evenly spaced out. So how do you label the spacing or pitch of the weld? So you put a dash on the right of the fillet weld length and indicate its pitch. So for example, these welds are sized at 2 inches each. And they are spaced out at 4-inch center to center. How do you label that? So you can label that by specifying first if it is on the arrow side. So if it is on the arrow side, you put it below the reference line. So if it is size 1/4 inch weld still, so you put the length on the right side now, followed by a dash, and then the pitch of the weld, just like that. So remember that the pitch of the weld is the center to center distance of the weld. Just want to remind you of the exercise PDF that I have uploaded in the video description below. So you can access that if you want to have exercises at the end of this video. Now back to the video. Chain intermittent welds against the intermittent weld only is that these welds appear on both sides of the joint, similar to this one. So as you can see here, there are evenly spaced fillet welds that appear on both sides of the joint. on this side and on this side. So if those welds appear on both sides of the joint, then you must write the weld symbol above and below the reference line. As you can see here. So you can see the fillet weld symbol appears above the reference line and appears below the reference line. Similarly, you can put the pitch on the right side of the length. So for example here, you have a 2-inch size or 2-inch length of a fillet weld. Then its pitch is 6-inch center to center. Then, thus you can name this as a fillet weld. Remember that the perpendicular part of the fillet weld always appear on the left side, just like this one. And if it is of 1/4 inch size weld, then you can put 1/4 here. And then, the length of the weld is 2-inch, followed by its pitch, which is 6. Then you do that as well on the other side, or in the arrow side of the joint. Just like that one. How about for staggered intermittent welds, just like this one? Now for the staggered intermittent weld, just like this one, where there are welds on both sides of the joint but not exactly aligned with each other, so you can put the welding symbol just like this one. Similarly, if this fillet weld is size 2-inch, just like the other one, and then they're spaced out at 6 inches. Then you can write the symbol as this one. So remember, the size of the weld is also 1/4 inch. You put the size of the weld on the left side, and then the length on the right side, as well as the pitch. Note that for the staggered intermittent weld, the fillet welding symbol should not be exactly placed directly downward of the weld symbol on the other side. So it has some sort of an offset between the weld symbol above the reference line and below the reference line. So similarly, you can put the size on the left side and the length and pitch on the right side. You can also combine intermittent and continuous weld. So as you can see here, both sides of the joint has fillet welds, but on the other side it has intermittent welds. And on the arrow side or on the other side of the joint has a continuous fillet weld. So if the pitch of the weld or if the size of the intermittent weld on the other side is 2-inch, just like this one, and its pitch is 4 inches, you can write this welding symbol as follows. So if it is the arrow side, and this is the other side, consequently this is the arrow side, you can put the welding symbol as follows. So the weld size is still 1/4, so you can write the 1/4 inch on the left side. Since the weld on the arrow side is continuous, you need not put the length of the weld symbol on the right side. You just need to put the length and pitch of the weld symbol for the intermittent weld, just like this one. So you have to put here 2 for the length of the weld symbol or the fillet weld, and its pitch 4. Don't forget to write the weld symbol or the weld size on the left side. So that's how you label a combined intermittent and continuous weld. Now, before we proceed in solving the exercises, if you want to recap the fundamentals of a welding symbol, I have put the icon right here. Now for our first exercise, now you can see this joint has a combined continuous and intermittent welds. So how do you write the welding symbol of this one? So if you're gonna label this joint, now this is the arrow side, right? Now remember that in this exercise, we will use a weld size of still 1/4 inch. So if we're gonna write the weld symbol for this one, you have to put the size on the left side, 1/4. Now, since this is a continuous weld, on the other side, you need not put the length on it. But for the other side of the joint, you put the size on the left side. Then, the length of the joint is 2, followed by its pitch, which is 5. So that's the answer. As you can see here, it has a specific weld length indicated on a specific location of the joint. So you put the weld symbol just like this one. So the size is still 1/4, and the length of this weld at this part of the joint is 4. And for the other one, since you need to indicate the specific location of the joint or the weld, you put another weld symbol here. Now this is the arrow side still. For this arrow, this is the arrow side. You put the size again on the left side and its length on the right side. Just like that one. Can you guess what type of fillet weld this is? Comment down below if you know the answer. Now this fillet weld is an intermittent weld. If we're gonna put the weld symbol in this side, so now the welds fall on the arrow side now. So you put the fillet weld symbol on the arrow side below the reference line, just like this one. Put the size on the left side, 1/4. Now the length of the joint is 2 inch. And its pitch specified here is 4 inch. This is the pitch. And this is the length. Now this is a staggered intermittent weld. How do you name this joint? So if you label the joint just like this one, now the above joint is now the arrow side. Still, the size of the weld symbol here is 1/4. Put it on the left side of the joint or the weld symbol. Now what is the size or what is the length of the fillet weld? So the length of the fillet weld is 3 inch. Now what is the pitch of the fillet welds? The pitch of the fillet welds is 10, not 5. Remember that. So the pitch is the center to center distance of the welds on the corresponding side of the joint. So this one. So you put here 10. Now this is a staggered intermittent weld, so the weld symbol of the fillet is not directly aligned or not directly above or under the weld symbol. So you put 1/4 as the size here, and the length and pitch of the weld. So similarly, since the label of the pitch is not indicated on the other side, you can assume that the pitch of this side of the joint, the pitch at this side of the joint is same as the pitch on the other side of the joint, which is 10 as well.
So if you need further guides in writing WPS or practice questions regarding the CWA exam, I have the playlist right here. So if you've enjoyed this type of video, please don't forget to leave a like and comment down below for further questions. Also, please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want to become a CWI. Stay tuned for more. See you on the next one.